Alright, so section 2.3 is solving equations while using the distributive property. Excuse me. If you forgot what the distributive property is, please stop this video, pause this video, whatever, and go to the review of distributive property video. Because it is very imperative. We've been using it if you've been, when we get rid of the decimals by multiplying everything by 10, or when we got rid of our fractions in the last video by multiplying everything by 2. But you need to understand distributive property to be successful at 2.3. So if you're not quite sure after the first example, pause the video, go to the review video, and refresh your memory on the distributive property. Distributive property basically means that we're distributing equally. So it'll be my first step here. We're going to distribute when I have a number times a quantity in parentheses, like 8 minus c or even 8 plus c. But, you know, a number and a variable strung together with a plus or a minus sign. So our first step that we're going to do here is we're going to distribute. So we're going to take that 4 times 8, which gives me 32. And then we're going to take that 4 times the negative c, so I'm going to get minus 4c equals 8c plus 16 minus 6c. Now, when you look at the right-hand side of our equation, notice that we have 2 c's on the right-hand side. So that means I need to do a combined like terms. So I'm going to leave the 32 minus 4c on the left, and on the right-hand side I'm going to do 8 minus 6, which will give us 2c plus 16. So again, because they are on the same side of the equal sign, we just follow the sign or the operation and go from there. So this was 8c minus 6c, which gives us 2c. From here, now we just got the two variables, or the variables on each side of the equal sign. So I'm going to zero out the 2c on the right. Actually, when I look at this, I mean, we can still do that. But remember how I talked about I like to keep things positive? Well, when I look more closely, no, get this back to me. When I look more closely, I have a negative 4. So I would rather add 4c to both sides than subtract 2. But you would get the same answer, or you should, unless you do something wrong, get the same answer if you did the SPOE instead of the APOE. So now I have 32 equals 6c plus 16. From here, I am going to do a subtraction property of equality. I'm going to subtract 16 from both sides. So then I'm going to get that 16 equals 6c. I'm going to do a division property of equality. I'm going to divide both sides by 6. And so 6 does not divide into 16 equally, so I'm just going to simplify. I know that both are divisible by 2, so I'm going to get 16 divided by 2 is 8, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. So 8/3 equals c. Again, if I'm not sure about my answer, I can plug it back in and double check. But I personally did it and know that this should be 8/3. The other way you could write it is that c equals 3 goes into 8 2 times, right? If we have 8 divided by 3, it goes in twice because that's 6, leaving us with a remainder of 2. So 2 and 2/3. So both of those would be answers. Just make sure that you are looking at what Math Excel asks for you when it comes to how you give your answer. Example 2, notice we don't have the parentheses on this one. We're going to make this into a distributive property problem. So again, to get rid of my fraction, I'm going to multiply everything in the equation by the denominator. So my denominator is 4, so I'm going to multiply both the right and left side, because what I do to one side I have to do the other. So this is that multiplication. So MPOE and distributive property kind of all at once. So I'm going to take 4 times 12, that's going to give us 48. And then 3/4 times 4, you can write it out, 3/4 times 4 over 1. And you could take 3 times 4 divided by, and then 4 times 1. So we would get 12 over 4, which equals 3. Or because I see the 4 in top and bottom, I know that that divides out and I'm left with just 3 over 1, which is 3. Either way, whichever you're more comfortable with, it is 3n. So I take that 4 times the 3/4, and then I'm going to take my 4 times 5. And 4 times 5 is 20. So from here, it's just a two-step equation with all whole numbers. So I'm going to subtract 20 from both sides. So that's an SPOE, subtraction property of equality. So I'm left with 28 equals 3n. And then I'm going to do a DPOE. And I'm going to divide by 3 on both sides. Thing is 3 does not divide into 28. Nothing goes into both 3 and 28. So our answer is going to be 28/3 equals n. If it asks for a mixed number, then you can say that n equals, we have 28 divided by 3, so it'll go in 9 times, which is 27, leaving us with 1. So we would have 9 and 1/3. And again, I've double checked that these are indeed correct answers. Excuse me. All right, last example, we've got a word problem. So an apprentice pastry chef has been left alone to make 8 cakes, so we know we need a total of 8 cakes. He cannot remember how much sugar to put into the filling. So that tells us that that's what we're looking for, how much sugar to put in the filling. What he does know is that each cake we're not counting the filling, just the cake part requires, so cake, I guess each cake takes 1 1/4 cups of sugar. I'm going to go ahead and write that as an improper fraction. So 4 times 1 is 4 plus 1 is 5. So 4 1/4 or 5/4 cup of sugar. And that the head chef also told him that he will need a total sugar being 12 cups. So the question is how much sugar for the filling? So that's going to be, we're going to call that F. Our number of cups for the sugar. All right. So from here, I've got to figure out the way to write my equation. I know that sugar in each cake plus the sugar in the filling would be how much goes in a cake, right? So that's what we're going to start with. Each cake, which was 5/4 cup of sugar, plus the filling, right? That would give me the amount of sugar per one full cake with filling. I have 8 of those, so we're going to take 8 times the 5/4 plus F, or my filling, and that is going to equal my total, which is 12 cups of sugar. So again, I found what would make one cake. That would be the 5/4 plus the F. How many of those am I making? So I put that in parentheses and take it times 8, and then set it equal to what I know is my total cups of sugar. So from here, this is the same as 8 over 1, so I'm going to take 8 times 5, which is 40, divided, over 1 times 4, which is 4, plus, so distribute 8 times F, which is 8F, equals 12. And then from here, 40 divided by 4 is 10, thank you, plus 8F equals 12. I'm going to then subtract 10 from both sides. Guess I haven't. We did distributive property. We distributed that 8 through. Here was more just simplifying, and now I'm into subtraction property of equality. So here I didn't do anything to both sides. I'm just simplifying that 40 divided by 4. So 10 minus 10 is 0, and we have 8F equals, and that minus 10 makes it look like a plus 0. No, come back. Minus 10. Okay, which leaves us with 2. And then we divide both sides, so dp OE by 8. So I know that F equals, I know that 2 goes into both 2 and 8. And so 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. And so it takes 1/4 cup of sugar for the filling. And I just completely drew through my DPOE. So these can be a little bit more difficult to write the equations for, so just keep in mind that you're looking for what would create one of however many we're creating. How do I figure that out? And then how many of these items am I creating? And then that will equal the total. And so that is what I have for solving equations using the distributive property. Until next time.